Well, we got my truck recently had a little weird fuel system deal uh, where I lost the PCM fuse and left me on the side of the road. I got that straightened out, but I've come to realize that I think what I have going on is I have a 450 liter per hour pump in the factory bucket, and it was still return style. So this was my attempt at improving that. I made some modifications. I saved an old bucket here out of a returnless '04, '05 model truck, whatever, like mine. And what I did was I did away with the return regulator and stuff in there. And let's turn it up and show you. I'm going to retain all the EVAP stuff, everything. Um, Hopefully that'll all still work. If not, there's always ways around that. But what I got going on is I took and I made the old the old feed line into a return line. So I've got lots of old sending units and hangers and stuff out of stuff. So I kind of cannibalized some of them. So what I did was I used a piece of this submersible safe and a clamp, and I ran it down here to the old tower for the return. And what I did was I got me a threaded fitting there that threaded into that plastic real tight. It was barbed. Put me a clamp on that. So this is now my old feed is now my return line. And in the process of doing that, I also popped this little venturi out of here, and I drilled the orifice over here on this far side that shoots back up that tube out. Cleaned everything out real good. I still have to put the float and stuff back on it, and got to do a few other little things, but that was the process of modifying it where the old feed was the return. So then what I did on the feed side is I drilled, there's a hole in here that's in the plastic that's, I don't know what it's for. It was like a boss almost. So I drilled that hole and got a 8AN bulkhead to 3/8 barb. I still have to get some submersible hose to go for my pump. So now I have an 8AN here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run an 8AN up to the front on the truck and put a EFI regulator up there, and then my return line is going to come back. My old feed line is going to come off the return regulator, come back in to fill the bucket and turn back to the tank. So I'll have 8AN up and whatever 3/8 quick connect on the return off my regulator up front. Now, this is a hellcat pump. It's a 525 pump, and I was sort of having some issues before. I don't know how it was modified before with the old bucket, but this one, if you look, it's located all the way down in the bottom. Pickups down there, and there's little tabs there that held the factory pump in. It actually holds it in the bottom of the bucket real good. So hopefully that's going to work out real well. And I was kind of concerned about the power consumption of it. So what I did is, there's the connector that comes with it. If you look here, I'm using the feed and the ground wire off of this one to hit my feed, and the ground wire I have drilled and put a 1/4-inch bolt in there and doubled the wiring up. I had some more submersible wiring that was good. So I now have a ground terminal I can double nut. That holds that there. I put the wire on there and put another nut down there on it. So now, with the new and improved harness, what I'll have is I'll tie my feed and my ground together for a hot, and I'll use my ground stud for my ground. So then I'll have upgraded wiring, I'll have an upgraded feed line, I will have probably a better return system, have a better pump, and I'm going to I have a hot wire kit that goes up to the front with a 10 gauge wire. So I will use the existing trigger off the truck, or the existing fuel pump power off the truck to trigger my hot relay, my hot wire. So then it should pretty much be plug and play. After I get all my hot wire wiring situated, I'll put an actual plug on it and a quick connect, like a douche connector, or whatever you want to call it. So hopefully everything will work just like factory. Now, I might have a small EVAP leak, maybe from that ground stud, or possibly from the bulkhead, but it is washered on both sides, so maybe not. And if I do, I do, and I'll deal with that after the fact. But this way, the tank should feel, as possible, as just like normal. And I didn't drill a bunch of holes and cannibalize the bucket, which I don't know what's even inside the truck. I've not taken it out of there to see. I was told it was a 450 pump. I've got 80-pound injectors. So, I mean, I could have gone with a dual setup in this deal. I mean, I could put another, pump right here. I was gonna do dual 450s, but I don't really think that and Hobbs switch and all that stuff is going to be necessary at my power level. So, I looked a bunch of videos on the internet, and there was 2 or 3 people who had done things like this. I stole this idea with that and that return line from a guy who put double 450s in his. But I'm hoping the single 525, now that I actually have a rising rate regulator and stuff, 450s and 80s, it's going to do okay for me. Before, I was having an issue where when I was on straight E85, which I'm not very often, I'm usually either on 93 or a slight mixture, 50, 60%, whatever. So I don't pass it every day, so I usually run just 93 and spike it as necessary. But when I was running pure E85 or really high ethanol content, I was having an issue where anything over about 13 pounds, it just wasn't cutting it. It would almost try to lean out up top. It ran great on 50, 60%, even 70%, but I'm not real sure. And then I was also having the whole ordeal where if you got, a quarter tank, or even close to a quarter tank, sometimes I'd pull out of work and it would lean out and sneeze and do crazy stuff. So I don't really want to risk that anymore. So I'm going to pop it out of there and swap the sending unit out for this and add me a new line. Maybe that will buy me a little more margin of error, I guess, for what I'm doing. And I do think the pump was getting weak because it like I said, it lost the PCM fuse, and as a general rule, every time I've ever seen it pop the PCM fuse, that's the 20 amp fuse that also feeds the fuel pump relay, and I could test it. My meter only goes to 10 amps, so I snapped a 10 amp fuse in there, and with it running, it'll pop a 10 amp fuse. Put a 15 in there, and it'll pop that. The 20, was doing fine and had been in the truck, but I was a little low on fuel that day, and I got a feeling the fuel pump was pulling a little extra amperage, and it was just too much for the circuit. So I've got a 25 amp fuse in there, which don't recommend. It's probably not the greatest of ideas, but that got me going where I could drive the truck. So this is going to be my solution for that. I'm going to, like I said, feed it with a hot wire kit, put some 10 gauge wire back there. I'll have a 40 amp relay, straight off the battery or the alternator post, and I will use the old power wire to the pump to trigger the relay. So all I got to do now is get some submersible line or some of this accordion line, whatever you want to call that stuff, to go from my 3/8 barb feed to my fuel pump, and then do the wiring and add the line, and that should take care of my issues. So I was just documenting that because I looked many places on the internet, and I found several write-ups, but none of them that did single 525 in this manner. So that I'll let you know in a couple of weeks when I get around to putting it in how it does. Thanks.